The Charleston County School Board has rescinded its pay raise vote. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with Board Chairwoman Kate Darby and Board Member Chris Staubes one-on-one. Be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores.
Well, good to see you guys.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Anytime, Chris and Kate.
Yeah.
Let me begin with the obvious because this is the headline from abcnewsforward.com that just got down a few minutes ago. Charleston County School Board reverses vote on pay raises. Let me go through the actual article. It says this: Charleston County School Board voted Thursday to reverse a previous vote, giving themselves a substantial pay raise. Board members voted 5-4 to rescind their decision during July 17th board meeting to pass the controversial proposal. Tell me this, what does 5-4 tell you?
It tells me that it's still a divided vote. We have 4 of our members, and I respect everybody who's on our school board, and I told them all that when we started out, that however they voted, I respect their opinion. So what it tells me is we have 4 people who felt strongly one way, and then we had 5 people who felt pretty strongly the other way.
Kate?
Actually, I think it really doesn't totally represent how we all feel about the compensation issue, because I think for the most part, everybody agrees that the compensation should be changed in some way. I think that the 5-4 vote is a question of how that should happen.
Okay.
And so I think some folks feel like right now, because of the act of consolidation, we can't raise our pay unless the delegation, specifically gives us that, specifically says that.
Right.
And some feel like, we should just go ahead and change it. So I think we had really good discussion about it, and I think some things have come up about how we want to, move forward. We're going to, communicate with the delegation and go from there.
Chris, you wanted to say something more?
Okay, well, I do think that we do need to, add on to that. What we're going to ask the delegation to do is they're going to look at the act of consolidation as a whole, and that was something that I made a statement to the room, and then of course I think the school board members joined in with me, that we've got the 1967 Act of Consolidation. It's been around for 50 years, and there are 103 school districts, and I'm not talking about our constituent school boards. I'm talking about the 103 main school districts in South Carolina, and we're one of those 103, but we're the only one that's treated differently. We have the Act of Consolidation that brought together, I think it was 23 different school districts back when it was put together, but now we're down to 8 constituent school districts, and it's a group of people we would like to all be rowing in the same direction, but sometimes that's not so, and it would be nice if our Charleston legislative delegation would step in and maybe address some of that antiquated system to help us move forward in a positive way.
And I know Michael Miller basically says, hey, even though we were saying that our vote, this lawsuit still is probably going to go on.
Right, yeah.
What goes through your mind when you think that?
We have to be very careful. The lawyers told us that, pending litigation. Without getting too much into that, I think that this lawsuit is one that it will be interesting to see how it moves forward now with this change. I can say personally, my vote wasn't in effect to the lawsuit, but it'll be interesting to see how the judge determines that. We did talk today about having our general counsel, the in-house general counsel, pick a lawyer, and the lawyer's going to be retained, and then they'll file an answer or a motion to dismiss or whatever it may be, and they'll advise us on what the next steps would be.
Obviously, the constituent school board will be getting, what, $7,000 if this were to pass or come about?
Right, that was the original plan. They would get $7,000, and then the consolidated school board members would each get $14,000.
What is your message to them right now, in your mind?
Well, I think that they need to lean on the state legislature, the legislative delegation. There are at least 4, and I heard there was a 5th one that I didn't realize, has talked to the press, been very active on social media, has reached out to us, some in letters, some in phone calls, and they have certainly taken an interest in it. So let's see if they continue to carry that interest, or whether that interest is going to be lost now that it's been voted on by us.
Politics. A lot of people around here are saying, geez, why are you guys talking about a pay raise when kids are getting ready to go to school in 3 weeks?
Yep.
That weighed heavily on both of our decisions. I think I can speak for that.
Okay.
Because we didn't get into this business to make money.
Right.
Right. We knew what the pay was when we got into it. I'm glad that we've had the conversation. I I think it's a conversation we need to have, and I think we need to have the conversation, but on the larger scale of the act of consolidation. So I was kind of hoping this would introduce or open that door. But the pay itself is not going to make a difference for me, and I don't think it makes a difference for Kate. But you're right, what we need to be focusing on is the children who start school in, what, 20 days or so? Yeah.
And it's interesting when we talk about this, what this would cost. This year, we did the budget earlier than ever before. And when we passed the budget, it was actually a 5-3-1 vote. And Chris and I voted in favor of the budget, and in fact, so did Reverend Mack and Todd Garrett and Priscilla Jeffrey. And that budget added 119 teachers. So when we start school, there'll be 119 additional teachers and about 50 additional school staff. And I think that's a really exciting progress to be making when we had cut in the past. And I did, and I've said throughout this process, I feel very strongly that we do need to look at compensation. But we had board members that didn't vote to approve the budget that added teachers, and then we wanted to add a raise. We shouldn't do that. We need to, if we're going to have a raise, we need to follow the correct process. It needs to be before, included in the budget process. And I think when talking with a couple of constituent board members, we ought to reach out to them. What do they think the compensation should be? I heard different things from 3 different constituent board members. So there's lots of good discussion going on.
And actually that's really big, the idea of bringing those teachers back.
Sure.
Because I remember having a conversation, I think it was a meeting that we had probably not too long into after we got elected, and it was when Mike Bobby was the superintendent, and I think it was right over next door, not too far away, that way, at Francis Marion, I think, and we put up the little poster boards, and we said, what's important to you? And the one thing that was important to me was reducing the number of students in each classroom, so the teacher-student ratio. Right. And it was very tough on me when that $18 million deficit showed up, and we had to, the recommendation we got was to actually increase class sizes. That was something that was just horrifying to me. So now that we have an opportunity to go back the other way by bringing more teachers to the classroom, at least I feel like we're heading in the right direction, but I only see it as one step and what needs to be a multi-step process.
Let me stay with the students. Obviously, like you said, 20 days before school starts.
Right.
How's the energy around here in your mind?
I think the energy is really positive, and all summer, the district's been doing listening sessions with all kinds of different groups, and I think there's been, the first time we've ever done anything at that magnitude of getting input, and so I think there's been a lot of positive input, and sometimes people gave us input that might not be positive, but I think it's constructive.
Sure.
And when I talk to staff and teachers, I think they're getting excited about getting back to school. People are looking at their numbers from the past year. We've had some schools that have really made some gains, and that's exciting. Right. So I think although, the end to the school year was not exactly what we may have wanted it to, I think it was a very successful year. I think there's a lot more we can do in the 17-18 year. And I think people are pretty excited about that.
And what I would say with the 75 Calhoun Street group is, I'm not sure that there was a great job done of listening last year. At least that was the perception. So now the superintendent has made a very active role of letting people know that she is listening. Right. And of course, that's just a step one. There needs to be multiple steps. It can't just be something that looks like it's for show, because that's not what it is. The superintendent told me, I'm not sure it was today or yesterday, that she plans on continuing with the teacher groups that she will listen to, basically roundtables. So this needs to continue, whether it's true or just perception. It needs to be fixed. That the teachers, our employees, the people we depend on, and the families and parents need to understand that our superintendent is there to listen to them. And same with the school board. As you know, we've gotten some very bad ratings recently, and that's something that we're aware of, and it's going to take time to turn that around. But we certainly are cognizant of it, and it will get there.
And I think people, the teachers there's lots of different positions, and everybody's important in the district, but the teachers are what makes this whole school district run, what makes the engine run, and they're in there day in and day out, on their hands and knees, working with the kids, doing some fantastic things I never saw done when I was in school. Right. I'm sure you feel the same way. And I think it hurts me to think that at any point our teachers feel like they were not valued or we were trying to run people out of town. That is
Right.
not the case.
Right.
We need teachers.
Right.
We want teachers to feel supported, and we want them to say, hey, this is what I need to feel supported, or I'm concerned about this paperwork I have to do. So, I mean, I think giving that input is always important.
Sure.
We both talk a lot about when people come and give us feedback, we want to know, what are you for?
Right.
Tell us what you're for. What can
Right.
we advocate for? And I think that we're glad to hear that from teachers, but we want teachers to hear from us that we support them and we appreciate the hard work they do, which we know it's 365 days a year.
Right, and our door is open for people who want to come talk to us. I know there's a concern out there that, we can't talk to the school board because, well, maybe think their job's at risk or whatnot, but at least Kate and I both been very
Yeah.
vocal that
Yeah.
we'll listen to people, keep everything confidential, and it'll help us do our job. We were elected, it's interesting, so you get elected on the school board, or you run for a school, or probably true with any office, but you're really the representative of the people. But once you get elected and you get sworn in, within minutes, you are now perceived as being the administration, which is not true. I mean,
Right.
at least that was my perception of it.
Right.
We still see ourselves as the representatives of the people who are trying to do the right thing for our kids and families of Charleston County. So that's, and maybe and there's a perception, I guess, that the larger school board is more of an institution of 75 Calhoun Street, when that's really just not true.
Right.
But we would like to get that message across to people.
You talk about the school board and the bad ratings and obviously the reputation that's out there
Yes.
about you guys.
Not a new reputation.
Right, I know. But okay, describe the Charleston County School Board right now. What letter grade would you give you guys as far as job performance?
Madam Chair.
I think I'd probably give us a B- or C+. And I think there's things that we could be doing better.
Okay.
When we got on the board, I think there were some things that were fairly disjointed. I think now, even though we have lots of 5-4 votes, we have lots of 9-0 votes. So I think in some ways we're working together better, even when we disagree.
Okay.
I think though that we have all got to have a laser-like focus on what our purpose is, and our purpose is, the vision for the school district, what it should be doing, not the how. Our role is not management. Our role is governance. And when I grade us poorly on that piece because I feel like too often board members want to micromanage on, we should hire this person or do this. And our focus needs to be on the direction we're going and how we're going to get there. I mean, where we want to go. And I think I see improvement, but if we could focus on that governance piece, and we talked about it in the Code of Ethics today, if we could really focus on that and support our teachers and support the administration in doing that, I think we'll see student achievement improve. And that's why we both ran for the school board. The main reason we ran is because we wanted, we have too many children in our underserved schools, underserved population. Those kids are not learning a year's worth of, they don't gain a year when they're in school a year, and that has got to change. And so I think if that can be our focus, how do we make sure if a child starts 3rd grade this fall, at the end of 3rd grade, they're ready to go into 4th grade? And if that's what we're focusing on and not worrying about some of the other little things that we tend to worry about, I think we can be an A. We can have an A grade.
And when she says governance, she doesn't mean, because this was an issue last year, talking about a coherent governance, which there were several of us who opposed that. And it's, I think we all knew who the people were, and I was one of the people who opposed it. But the solution we came up with was to go through each policy individually, which seems to have been well received by the board members. Reverend Collins was one of the big opponents of the coherent governance with me, and he's probably the person who brings the most policies to the group to be reviewed. So I just want to make that clear, because that is a concern that we've somehow turned over all our power to the superintendent.
Okay.
The one issue that
That's not the case.
it's not true. But the one issue that's kind of brought that to a head for everyone to feel like we had done that was the one with turning over the power to for the principal hiring. Now, it came to a head because of the principal transfers, which was something that the superintendent already had the power to do. So that wasn't something we gave up. That actually, I think, was in a policy from 2005, if I remember correctly. So it wasn't something we gave up. We did give her the power to do the principal hiring without coming through us, although she still goes through committees and there is a process. It's just and there was a reason for that, and it was there were some concerns about some people that some things that were going on, and we just needed to streamline the process so that we could actually move the ball forward. Yeah.
You talk about change. I'm glad I had both of you guys
Right.
here. Obviously, another controversial issue, I guess a week or two ago, was about the new football stadium moving from Carolina
Yes.
Park to Wando.
Right.
When you look at that, what sticks out to you?
Well, that was one of those compromise. That would be the word I would pick for because that was it was a long process. My understanding of the way that worked was that the town of Mount Pleasant approached CCSD, and this was my conversation with a prior employee who was in charge of a lot of the building plans. That the town of Mount Pleasant approached CCSD and said, we are about to buy a piece of property with the Parks and Recreation with part of the 1 cent sales tax money. And that's a 250-acre tract of land off of Rifle Range near Hamlin.
Right.
And the idea was, so why don't we work together? We'll work cooperatively, and that would be a great opportunity for Mount Pleasant Rec to get more opportunity to use fields, and for the CCSD to not have to buy land, and we could just use the money to build a stadium. So we are moving towards the shared stadium operation throughout all of the district, all the county. And so that we made that plan, but when they put together the half-cent sales tax list, they figured just building costs, not purchase of land cost. But they did have a backup. The backup was what we ended up with the other night, which is behind Wando. That was just a safety net. So not too long after we got elected, the town of Mount Pleasant did some listening sessions and just got negative. Mount Pleasant's going through an anti-development phase right now. That's pretty much the consensus over there, and I guess we were victims of it. It was unfortunate because I had some partnerships with some of the business industry that was going to bring some money to the table, and we could have done something really, really nice over there with the Performing Arts Center, with our stadium, and with the town, just sharing everything. It didn't work out, so we ended up next moving over to looking at our property at Lang, the old Lang property.
Right.
And we worked together with the town,
Right.
and
Number of months.
Yeah, exactly. And we were going to swap some property around to get enough to do it. She needed enough property, of course, to park all these people, and it's a big deal. And it wasn't perfect. The stadium wasn't going to be lined up. The sun would be in the kids' eyes and whatnot, and there wasn't parking, and there was where you can put the legs, and the church didn't like it, and then
There was a Civil War berm.
There was a Civil War berm, and all kind of stuff you could. So that one just couldn't work. So we did end up selling Lang, the old Lang, and that property, that money is going to be used or a good portion of it, to add 300 seats to the Lucy Beckham High School, which was 1,200. Now it'll be 1,500, and then we're going to add 300 seats to the Moultrie Middle School so that can expand. So when that didn't work out, we go down the street, and staff came to us with a proposal to buy land from the developer at Carolina Park. So we looked at that, and it was going to be, it was really nice. We got a good presentation of what it was going to be, that the developer was now going to work with us and put small retail shopping around it, or good coffee shops, restaurants, whatnot, which would have been nice. I live in Mount Pleasant, and every time that kind of stuff's promised to me in my neighborhood, it turns out to be high-density residential, so we don't get those little nice things. So that was the plan, but then some of the neighbors in the community didn't like it, and they fought it, and then I think we had more people who wanted it there, but then we got what it was going to cost, and there was a $13 million difference between the two, and we just couldn't justify it. That was basically twice the price to put it across the street due to some developer requirements. I think that was $2.8 million or so, and then there was some additional cost of fixing the land up so it could support a structure, and that was another, say, $3 million or so. So we moved it across the street. You want to add anything?
I think I think that pretty much covers it. It was a compromise, and I think I went to a high school that had a shared stadium. I went to Richmond Northeast in Columbia, and we shared with Spring Valley, and it was Spring Valley Stadium, no question about it. And I think the staff, from the very beginning, we've said, okay, if this is going to be a shared stadium, then we need to make it a shared stadium. When Beckham plays there, it's going to be Beckham colors, and it'll say Beckham, and when Wando plays there, it'll be Wando's colors. So those are some things that in the budget that they've included, so that it'll really stand out for those kids. And I know there are some folks on both sides, and I think it's a good solution. I think at Beckham we're going to have a number of fields, so lots of sports can be played there. Varsity football probably will be played at the shared stadium. But I think it's a win-win. One thing that I think people were concerned about is they didn't want to lose any practice fields.
Right.
And so when it became apparent to staff that it was going to be fairly expensive to do the Carolina Park option, they started right away to work with Coach Hayes on making sure that they wouldn't lose any practice fields if we went that route. So I think we've addressed everybody's issues.
Yeah, but it's a compromise.
It is a
And-
compromise.
And it's one of these things that, once we look back on it, I think we'll be happy with the product we have.
Yeah.
It is gonna be a nice stadium.
It is.
And when the dust settles between obviously the pay raise and the stadium debate and obviously the principal shuffles and whatnot, what do you want people to say about the Charleston County School Board and the district?
I want people to say that the Charleston County School Board is working together to improve student achievement in Charleston. And that is what our focus should be. I mean, 75% of the time, I would hope that our news coverage and our discussion is about, oh my gosh, at Mitchell Elementary, we've increased gains. What are they doing there? How are they doing it? How can we replicate it other places? And obviously, there are times that we have to talk about things like stadiums or purchasing this or other things to operate the district. But that should be, 10, 20% of the time, and the majority of the time should be us focused on, what is this district going to be like in 20 years? This area is growing so fast. How are we going to meet those needs? And how are we going to make sure that every single student is prepared to go either to graduate and then either go to work or go to college? And we're not there yet, and that is what our focus should be on.
And that's what the superintendent, coming up with plans, and she's presenting it to us. And a lot of that doesn't make the news. I guess it's not as sexy
Right.
as some of the other things. But yet we do get information about how the students are doing, and I do think to a person, all 9 of the school board members, once you strip back the personalities, I think everyone does care about the kids, and that is important. I've seen some boards and councils where the people maybe don't like each other, but I can say I do like all the people, and I enjoy working with them. We do have our disagreements, but I respect their opinion, and I know that they're all working to try to move the ball forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kate Darby and Chris Staubes, thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thank you very much.